little bit. Just if you could give one nugget of advice for somebody who needs to maintain the balance between full sport, their academic study, and loving their social life and not losing their friendships, which we know are so key for mental health and the balance of life. What would you say has been the thing which you've learned on that particular one?
Probably just to go out there and do as much as you can and everything as you can, and then always rein back, and find that tipping point, rather than be in fear of going out there and having a good time and training well and studying hard. I always found that I'd go out, I'd try and do everything as much as possible, and then I'd know deep within myself if I was taking the mick in one or other, and I was struggling in one or other. So if you want to have that balance, if you want to strive in the classroom, on the field, and also socially, go out and do it all. But then you only through your experience will you then understand, okay, maybe it's a bit much of one or a bit much of other, and you can rein back in them. But I wouldn't be in fear of going out and trying everything.
What they did, which was so clever, was they facilitated. They didn't push, they just facilitated. Like my mum would see auditions in The Stage, which is the professional magazine for the industry. And she would show it to me when I was about 14 or 15, and she would say, do you want to go for this? And I go, oh, yeah. Yeah. And like I was auditioning for films and things when I was 14. I didn't get any of them. But at the same time, I was still in the room at the age of 14. And also I was a singer because I used to sing with my dad. And I was singing in pubs and clubs by the time I was about 10. So, that was a great experience. And everything, all the experience you can get if you want to be an actor, the more the better, because you're getting used to audiences. You're getting used to how an audience works. You're getting used to your timings are all different, how you do things, what will make an audience laugh, what won't make an audience laugh, what they'll take from what you're doing. So even though I was 8 years old with a guitar that was twice the size of me singing Max Boyce songs, it was fantastic experience. And it just it went from there. I did plays at school. A lot of plays at school. I did so many plays at school. I even got a comment on my report, which we used to get, and from the headmaster, from the deputy head, saying, we think that Charles needs to get his priorities right because his A stream work is getting worse, and it was like, well, I look back 40 years later and go, kind of did get my priorities right. Do you know what I mean? So, and more of that later. But it just went from there. I did local youth theatre. I auditioned for the National Youth Theatre, which was in London. So I was spending months in London when I was 14 years old, living in hostels, pretty much on your own, really, with other guys of sort of similar age. And doing all that. So the more experience you can get, the better it is.
So can you remember the first time you went into court? Can you remember those feelings?
We do. It was in Caerphilly, which probably won't be known to most of your students, but Caerphilly is just outside Cardiff, and there was a magistrates' court there, and my clerk, the barrister's clerk, who tells barristers which case to do and where to go, sent me for my first case to Caerphilly Magistrates Court, which was to represent a shoplifter. And in Caerphilly at that time, it's only 50 years now ago, they had opened up a French supermarket, and there was a lot of shoplifting going on there. And the magistrates had many, many cases. Now I had this case, it was a guilty plea. I was only going there to say, my client's very sorry and blah, 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 and this is why he did it, and he shouldn't have done it, and he knows it, and please don't be too hard on him. But I worked on the case all night. I got to court as nervous as can be, never stood up in court before on my own. And I stood up and I gave my 3-minute speech, which I'd prepared, one word perfect, and I gave all these reasons. I hadn't, if I can put it this way, my bottom hadn't hit the seat before the chairman of the bench said, £5, £3 costs. It was perfectly obvious they hadn't listened to a word that I'd said. That was the first time. And I mean, every time, of course, I mean, I think most barristers, now people shouldn't be put off it. I think most advocates, whether they're barristers or solicitors, it probably takes 9 to 12 to 15 months before, even if you're going to court regularly as I was, before the time comes when you stand up without feeling at all self-conscious, because you do feel self-conscious, and that makes you look a little uncertain and so on. You get over that, but some people do it very quickly. Some people it takes longer. Don't be put off if it does take longer.
What would you suggest doing to encourage more women to get involved in the industry?
So there are, I quite often get asked about the kind of male-female thing, and I am generally surrounded by fantastic women in every industry. Because I was kind of thinking, my doctor's a woman, my lawyer's a woman, my tax advisor's a woman, my accountant's a woman. So women they are there and they are doing these things, and they're doing an awesome job. And every industry, all the kind of industries that I work in now, and the different things with regard, except rugby, but everything else that I work in actually is well balanced between, I find it's well balanced between males and females.
For you to kickstart something, and I just loved it, and I just, oh my goodness, but there was no course for it. I was terrible the first week. I was terrible. I'm so glad there was no YouTube or social media, because if you ever found that footage, I mean, it's excruciating to think about. But I thought, this is an opportunity. So I did everything I could to be better. So I designed my own presenting course. It was really weird. So I would pick up an object, wherever it may be, like a mug, and I would talk about it for exactly a minute and link out of it. I would read a broadsheet paper on something I didn't know much about, like, I don't know, hedge funds. And I would read it and I would regurgitate it into my phone to see if I made sense of it so I could present it in the right way. I would do timing tests. Even to this day, I leave a voicemail for exactly 1 minute. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but it's always a minute. If you look at any voicemail I've sent you, it'll be a minute, because I always try and keep the training up to time, because as a live presenter, timing is everything. Knowing how long 15, 20, 30 a minute is really important. So that gave me the confidence then to deliver on screen, and bit by bit, I'm not saying I'm very good now, but I'm much better than I was 15 years ago.
What advice would you give for a young player trying to stand out when they're amongst lots of other really great players?
I'll tell you what I was like when I was 14. I just had a quick story to finish, and this is what I was like as a 14-year-old, my mentality. I remember one Christmas, I was watching the Lions talk, so I wanted to play for the Lions. And my dad came home from work, and he gave me a piece of paper. And BBC did a documentary on myself when I finished. And my dad said this story. I didn't realize he remembered it, but he said the story to start the documentary, and it's a true story. So my dad came home, he was a fireman. He came home with this piece of paper. He said, "Sam, can you fill this out? It's for a fireman's son doing some homework. Can you fill it out for him?" So I went, "Yeah, no, whatever, no problem." So I got this piece of paper, and it just said name, age, sports, position, and ambition. So I just wrote down Sam Warburton, age 14, sports, rugby union, position, open side flanker. Then it said ambition. I'm not saying I achieved this, but I'm just saying the story exactly as it is. I wrote down an ambition, British and Irish Lions, rugby legend. And I give it back to my dad. And he said, "What are you doing?" I said, that's what I want to be. I don't just want to be one of many people who played for Cardiff or Wales. I want to be one of the best ever Lions players. That's what I want to be like. So that Christmas, he bought me a red number 7 shirt. The open side flanker was number 7. Bought me the red British and Irish Lions shirt with the number 7 on the back. And I wore it everywhere, like non-school uniform days, training, running around late at night, in the gyms. I was just adamant I was going to play number 7 for the British and Irish Lions. And when I was playing against kids for Whitchurch High School, there might be a really good kid from West Wales who plays number 7, and the players would be going, "Oh, are you nervous about playing against this kid?" I always got nervous about playing because I wanted to do well, but I never got nervous about my opposite number, because I always thought, well, I was sounding arrogant. I'm genetically, physically, like I was tall, I was fast, I was powerful, I was athletic. So I had that, which I was lucky. But then more importantly, I thought, he doesn't eat as healthy as I do. He doesn't train as hard as I do. He doesn't have the mental strength and the belief and willpower that I have. On top of my natural physical ability, he just can't be as good as me. If I'm going to play for the Lions, I can't just be the best kid in my school or Cardiff or Wales, my age group, or the other 4 countries it's got to be the other 4 countries and a 15-year age range. I'm that one best number 7. So this guy from West Wales just can't be as good as me. Like, he's not. He can't be, because I'm going to be the guy who plays 7 for the Lions, and that was my mentality. I remember Whitchurch then. Like, I used to go to school. They'd open up the gym for me at lunchtimes. I remember I swapped my jam sandwiches for tins of tuna, my packets of crisps for bananas and apples. I used to take my diet quite seriously. Used to go running around late at night when no one else was looking and no one else was training, just wanting to be super fit. I was obsessed to get to the top. And I heard a really good quote from one professional sports person. He said, I wasn't talented, I was obsessed. And I felt that was almost me. Don't get me wrong, I had a good social life. I enjoyed myself. I had a really good friendship group. I went out and played and, went to the odd party. It didn't stop my life. I still enjoyed myself. But when it was time to train and when it was time to focus on what I was doing it. And I guess then, like, fast forward like 9 years, 10 years, I was 24 and I got my first, I was picked then to play number 7 for the Lions, and they brought in a Lions legend to give us our jerseys the night before a big game. The night before a big game, you have a jersey presentation. I was left last as captain, number 7, Sam Warburton, got my jersey. And then the jersey presentation was over and I knew I was playing for the Lions the next day. And the kit man came up to me and said, do you want me to take the jersey off you and I'll put it in the change room tomorrow? Like normal, that's what normally happens. You just turn up off the bus and all your kit is there ready. Or do you want to hold on to this jersey for the night and take it to the game yourself, which is normally quite unusual. I remember saying, mate, there's no way you're taking this from me. Like, this is my shirt, I'm having it. I went back to my hotel room and I put the shirt out flat with a number 7 facing up, the same sort of shirt that I had when I was a 14-year-old, my dad gave me. But I remember back then, my dad said to me when he'd given my first practice jersey, when I was 15, he said, where's that shirt gone I bought for you? And I said, I put it away, Dad, because the next one I got to have is got to be the real one. I just fed up of being this pretender. I have to have the real thing. And I put that shirt away at about 15. So when I was 24, going back to my hotel room, I finally had that like beautiful red shirt with the number 7 on it, laid it flat on my bed, and I just stared at it. And I went to leave the room, and I went back for a second time and just stared at this number 7 shirt, and I folded out all the creases with the number 7 facing up. But that for me was like, that was 9-10 years of hard work, sacrifice. Some people telling me I wouldn't do it from being dropped, telling me I wouldn't be a number 7, I need to change the position. I went through all sorts, but like no one ever shook the belief and just sheer will that I was going to do it. So that was 10 years of hard work and sacrifice, coming to fruition, really. And that was the best moment of my career. So yeah, when I was young, that was my mentality. That's what I wanted to do. And I made sure that no one got on my way to stop me. So yeah, that was just my mentality as a 14-year-old.